These next 3 moments during the House Judiciary Committee hearing on Republicans revoking abortion rights from women in America highlighted the hypocrisy, dangers, and delusion behind this antiquated assault on a woman's right to choose. First, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal slams Republicans for their fake claims of being the pro-freedom, pro-liberty, and pro-life party when they can't even support early childhood education or childhood tax credits that would give families more money to feed their children. Oh yeah, and the party who was gung-ho when it came to separating immigrant children from their parents at the Mexican border.
You want to know what's radical? A radical and politicized Supreme Court majority now stands poised to take away the basic freedom that women and pregnant people must have to make choices about our own bodies, and instead to have the government force pregnancy. And here's the thing that really galls me. The hypocrisy of an anti-freedom, anti-abortion movement that claims to support life and freedom. Our Republican witness and our Republican colleagues today spoke about the so-called violence of abortion when they are the very people who have opposed funding for contraception to prevent pregnancy, or opposed the child tax credit, which clearly reduced hunger, or even advocated to separate thousands of immigrant kids from their parents, or withhold baby formula for babies at the border. In fact, states with the most draconian abortion restrictions also have the highest maternal mortality rates. That's the real violence here, and that's the hypocrisy I want to examine. So, Dr. Robinson, maternal and infant mortality is a raging epidemic, and Black women and children are especially at risk. What are the anti-abortion, anti-freedom advocates doing to protect the lives of Black mothers and infants? And I have a number of questions, so if you could keep your answers short.
Yes, they're not doing anything to protect the lives of mothers and infants, and I appreciate you asking the question. The things that our patients need right now is effective contraception. We need access to health care before you become pregnant. We need access to care beyond 60 days postpartum. We need to be able to send our children to child care if we do choose to parent. We need access to effective abortion and abortion in your own community if you choose not to be a parent.
And at every turn, this anti-freedom movement, as you said, that is opposing abortion and reproductive health access, are the same people who don't want to provide health care to people and want to tear down the Affordable Care Act or Medicaid. Ms. Arambidi, how much will abortion bans strain our already overburdened healthcare system and harm the health of pregnant people and children of color?
Thank you for your question. I mean, we're already seeing what it looks like for about 50,000 Texans to go into other states trying to access the care they need. When we see that 26 other states are going to ban abortion, if this draft opinion goes into effect, it's going to be exponential. People will be forced to carry their pregnancies longer. And that's only if they can access the care, if they can travel, if they can find childcare, if they can take off work to access the care they need, if they can afford to to pay for their procedure. And then the regular health system, especially in Texas, we've already seen how overrun it is. And we're a state that has cut family planning, cut access to prenatal care. We don't pay attention to the high maternal mortality rates. In addition to that, we have not expanded Medicare. We don't take care of the people that are in our communities now. And we've seen the devastating effects of these types of bans in Texas, especially.
Thank you so much for the work you do. Even though the data is clear that the abortion rate has fallen thanks to better contraceptive use and fewer unintended pregnancies, Ms. Glenn Foster's organization has written articles and amicus briefs in opposition to a wide array of reproductive healthcare services, including intrauterine devices, Plan B, in vitro fertilization. And so they're clearly not interested in preventing unintended pregnancies. In fact, Justice Alito, in his draft decision, also does note that the Supreme Court established many other modern rights based on the same reasoning as abortion rights, and specifically includes precedents around contraception. And by the way, other things like interracial or same-sex marriage. Professor Goodwin, does this so-called pro-life movement solely focus on revoking abortion rights, or are they also working to revoke other rights as well?
Other rights within the reproductive health space, and rights that are associated with the right to vote, so that when Justice Alito in this leaked draft opinion says, turn to your states and go vote, how does one do that effectively when this Supreme Court has dismantled parts of the Voting Rights Act and where it has become very difficult for poor people and people of color to be able to vote in these states?
So in response to Mr. Jordan, my colleague across the aisle's question about the fact that the Supreme Court is not aiming to take away other rights, in that same draft decision, didn't Justice Alito make reference to several other rights that follow essentially the same logic as this decision?
That's right.
Thank you. In the wake of this opinion, it is clear that the anti-abortion movement is not pro-life. They are anti-freedom, and they support abortion bans that would mandate government mandated pregnancy and disproportionately harm pregnant people and children of color. It's on us to ensure that these rights remain.
Second, Congressman Jamie Raskin issues a blistering warning that these extremist MAGA Republicans are coming for more than just a woman's right to choose.
Abe Lincoln once wrote a beautiful passage in which he compared the Constitution and the Declaration. He said the Constitution is like a silver picture framing the apple of gold. And the apple of gold, he said, is liberty, liberty for each and every person in the country. And the silver frame exists to protect the apple, he said. The Constitution exists to protect freedom. The apple does not exist to protect the frame. Well, today, both democracy and freedom are under siege in our country. There are right-wing extremists and fanatics who want to destroy both the silver frame of our constitutional democracy, and they came here to show us that they mean business on January the 6th of last year, and also the golden apple of personal freedom to make our own decisions about the most intimate and personal decisions that we could make. They have brought mob violence to the Congress of the United States, threatening to hang the vice president in order to overthrow a democratic election. And now they are about to do violence to the Constitution and the doctrine of a right to privacy, a freedom that tens of millions of Americans and women have considered central to their ability to lead their lives and to conduct their business as citizens of the country. Well, this is an illuminating hearing, Mr. Chairman. The Republicans' own witness, the witness they called, is candidly and openly calling for a nationwide ban on all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest. And if I've got that wrong, I would invite Ms. Foster to correct me. Do I have it wrong, yes or no?
If we added rape and incest exceptions, would you vote for it?
Okay, I reclaim my time, of course. This is a position for government-compelled childbirth in all cases so extreme that it excludes the vast majority of Americans of all political persuasions. Talk, for example, to our Republican colleague Nancy Mace, who has written movingly of her own rape at age 16, and she refused to stand down before anti-choice extremists in South Carolina who wanted to criminalize abortion, as this witness does in every single case, in all the cases. The MAGA party wants to turn what is today and what has been for 50 years a constitutional right into a federal crime. And they want to do it before the 4th of July. I want America to reflect on what's going on here. My wife Sarah and I have been parents for 30 years. There's nothing I'm prouder of than raising 3 human beings of great decency and character. And I've only been in public office for 15 years, half of that time, but I venture to say I've come to know politicians pretty well. And I hope it offends none of my colleagues here, but I must say, I trust my 29-year-old and 25-year-old daughters infinitely more to make the personal life planning decisions about when, where, and how to start their families, and all of the related attendant personal health care decisions about their bodies and their lives than I would ever trust the class of politicians to make those decisions for them. And that's what this is about. And I've served with great public officials from both parties, people like John Lewis, people like Liz Cheney, people like Nancy Pelosi, but I would not trust even the best politicians to make those judgments for my daughters. Much less would I trust the politicians who are fighting to criminalize abortion in all cases, with no exceptions, even for violent rape or incest across all of America. Why would we put this decision in the hands of those people? You know, Abraham Lincoln was right about something else. He said, government cannot endure permanently half-slave. He said, government cannot endure permanently half-slave and half-free. And ultimately, I am sure that Abe Lincoln is as right about the 21st century as he was about the 19th century. We are not going to be able to endure half-free and half-controlled by the government. I tremble for my country when I contemplate what this 5-justice majority is about to do to our country. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
And finally, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries speaks on just how ridiculous Samuel Alito's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade is by highlighting the man who Justice Alito based his opinion on, 17th century English jurist Sir Matthew Hale, who viewed women as a man's property and who once sentenced 2 women to death because he believed they were witches.
So this is an extraordinary step that the court may take, a runaway right-wing radical majority of the Supreme Court. To justify his opinion in the draft, Justice Alito quotes and refers to Sir Matthew Hale, I believe, approximately 98 times. Is that correct?
A number of times. I can't express it. That's exactly the number of times that he does, but it is alarming nonetheless that he does, considering that Sir Matthew Hale was one who wrote about coverture, meaning that women had no independent identity apart from their husbands, and that also meant that women could be legally beaten by their husbands and legally raped by their husbands too.
Oh, trust me, Ms. Goodwin, we're going to get there. Now, Justice Alito describes Sir Matthew Hale as a great and eminent legal authority. Is that correct?
That is correct.
A great and eminent legal authority. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a piece in the Washington Post on Roe. Alito cites a judge who treated women as witches and property.
Without objection.
Now, Sir Hale, an English judge from the mid-1600s, actually sentenced 2 women to death who he deemed as witches. Is that correct?
That may very well be correct. I would say that he cites several other legal scholars as well who supported those ideas and views.
Now, this so-called legal scholar, Sir Hale, is the one who actually was the foundation for the most frequently cited defense of the infamous marital rape exception. Is that true?
That's correct.
Sir Hale once wrote that the husband cannot be guilty of a rape committed by himself upon his lawful wife, for their mutual matrimonial consent and contract the wife hath given up herself in this kind unto her husband, which she cannot retract, end quote. So essentially,
that's right.
Justice Hale, or Sir Hale, viewed women as property that could be violently raped and abused without consequence. Is that true?
That is true.
And so most of the legal basis for Justice Alito's draft opinion and his doctrine stems from a misogynistic so-called scholar from the 17th century who died before a single word of the Constitution was written. Is that true?
That is correct, and who is not from the United States.
And the notion that these are individuals who want to speak about original intent and would discard 49 years of settled precedents here is outrageous, it's problematic, and that is what will undermine the confidence of the American people in our judiciary. We're going to continue to stand for the freedom of a woman to make her own healthcare decisions. Thank you for your testimony.
So if you agree with Jayapal, Raskin, and Jeffries here, please like and share this video to help it spread. And subscribe to Reflect here on YouTube for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. I'm Brendan Plank, and I'll see you in the next video.